Investing in your health is not just luxury, but it's a necessity. And that's why the program You're in Your Health exists. Good day, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you so much for joining me on yet another edifying edition of your favorite health program, You're in Your Health. I'm your host, Immaculate Fogwe, and today we are going to be looking at managing work-life balance. Stress has become a common thread in our daily conversation. We often say, I am stressed, without realizing the weight of those words. Whether it is work pressure, personal life, or just pace of modern life, stress has become a companion for many of us. In today's program, we are going to be exploring the impact of stress on our well-being. And to answer our questions, we'll be receiving a freshman psychologist and equally a trained broadcast journalist. He's called Philemon MBALE. It's a pleasure to have you on the program today.
Hello, Immaculate. I think the pleasure is very much shared here. After so many years, I feel very comfortable being back at home. And also, particularly because of the subject matter, which I think is very pertinent, and that's why we are here today.
In a society where the word stress is very common, a lot of people don't even understand what it really means from a psychological point of view. Tell us, what does stress really mean?
All right, to begin with, I must preface my explanations by saying this, that most people are unconscious of the fact that they are stressed.
Yes.
If you pick 10 persons and you ask them, what is stress? They can't tell you with pinpoint accuracy what exactly stress is, but whatever they will say is as a result of how they feel.
Mm-hmm.
So many people feel a certain way, but they don't know how they feel and why they feel that way, and then globally they term it, I'm stressed. So I would want to give a very simple but yet a concise and detailed definition of stress. Stress simply is the biochemical imbalance in a human's body. That's all.
That's just it.
Basically, that is the summary of what stress is. So for your listeners and your televiewers out there, stress is simply when the hormonal setting in your body witnesses an imbalance. It's called homeostasis. That is simply to say, whenever there's an event, an occurrence, an external event to begin with, because people create stress internally without even knowing. So let's begin with an external event. Take, for example, there's a big bang here.
Yes.
Boom! We are alert. We don't know where the bang is coming from. So our system quickly switches to the fight and flight nervous system. So fight, either you fight the danger or you flee. So when this happens, I wouldn't want to go through all the processes, but here's what happened. The human brain, from the amygdala to the hypothalamus, it signals the adrenal gland, which produces adrenaline and cortisol. Please take down these two names, cortisol and adrenaline. These are two hormones found in every human being. The most hyperactive, the most calm, presidents and billionaires as well as beggars. It's a natural phenomenon, cortisol and adrenaline. It's the body's way of paying attention to external threat. So when this happens, I give you an example. Heartbeat rate increases.
Yeah.
So the body is in either I'm looking for where the danger is coming from or where the next danger is coming from so that I can fight it or I flee. Reasoning faculty drops automatically. When you are in that state with high cortisol and adrenaline in your bloodstream, you don't think rationally. Your thinking becomes naturally irrational. So you have, like I said, increased blood pressure. You have pupils dilating, your eyes widening. The feeling it creates, that's what we call fear. So at that point in time, there's an imbalance because there's cortisol and adrenaline, both considered as stress hormones.
Okay.
So you take that as a homework, read up on stress hormones. Now, once these two hormones circulate in the human bloodstream for long, that is where we start seeing the effects of stress. High blood pressure, increased blood pressure, palpitation, increased heartbeat rate, and sweating, nervousness. So those are all the characteristics of hormonal imbalance in a human being, which is normal. It's man's way of, checking out where the danger is. Should I stay? Should I fight? Should I flee? So that's normal. But here's where the problem arises. When these hormones uncontrollably stay longer in the bloodstream, it downregulates genes. It weakens the immune system, causes inflammation. That is where disease comes in.
Let's now look at a concrete situation. A woman who has just given birth, she already has 2 children, and she's equal. Let's take a case of a journalist. You know how it can be so difficult to manage life and work. With a case of a woman who has 3 kids already, and she's still nursing a baby, let's say 9-month-old, and she equally has family responsibilities and she has work responsibilities. How can she juggle between both?
Well, before we get to that point, I'm going to answer your question. I still want us to vividly paint the picture. Because like I said, people are stressed out, but they do not know what stress is. Now, let me say this very, very clearly. A proper treatment, right, or rather, proper diagnosis precedes proper treatment.
For sure.
So if you don't diagnose what the problem is, I mean, have you come in contact with people who say, I don't know what is wrong with me. I just feel like I'm not okay. I'm angry, but I don't know what it is. A majority of people find themselves in that bracket. So the first thing we as humans must do is to understand our biology. Like I say, this is the only body I have to live in. I can't live in your body. You can't live in your mom's body. So why not, with intention, start taking care of this body, the only place I have to live while on earth? I'll give you a quick example before coming to your question. I had an opportunity to meet with some nurses at a public hospital here in Cameroon, and in the course of our discussion, I asked them, what's the most important organ in your body? One said her heart, the other said her brain. Impressive. Now, you carry your brain every day. I have my brain here, that I'm sure, at least I'm aware of that. And those of us watching the screens now, you have your brain. Now, does it make sense, Immaculate, that people do not know parts of their own brain, but yet they know Regina Daniels, they know Donald Trump,
but they are stars.
No, we take nothing away from that. But I'm saying that, is it rational for you not to know your heartbeat rate, which is just close to your chest, or a part of your brain which you carry every day, yet you know of people and things which you might never come in contact in life?
That's true.
So this is just a warning to say, hey, we have to be careful. Now, coming back to a situation, let's contextualize it.
Yes.
I wouldn't want to use a pregnant or a breastfeeding mother who just put to bed. Let me use another example. A general example. Take, for example, leaving my home this morning. Yeah, well, it's just an example. There's 10,000 francs. I left that with my wife, and she was expecting 15,000 francs, for example. And I leave. She stays home. She gets worried. I was expecting 15,000. I only get 10,000. How do I feed the family? How do I? Now she too prepares and leaves home for work.
Yes.
She gets to the office. Already, the fact that she was contemplating and talking to herself about the money which her husband left is creating a situation.
Of course.
There is an emotion that has not been expressed. Fast forward to the office. On a normal day, she greets her colleagues, she responds to emails. But just the fact that, and this is what the brain does, the brain and the mind, they are very good at that. Whatever you input, they multiply. If you input good thoughts, they multiply. If you input bad thoughts, they multiply it. Going to the office, she pours her anger, worry, vexation on her colleagues. A simple email she's supposed to answer, she answers with aggression. A simple hello, which she would normally say, she doesn't say. Now, what is she doing? She has brought the emotion from the house to the workplace and is further contaminating the other workers. Oh, I greeted Madame MBALE this morning. She didn't respond. Can you imagine? Immaculate, Immaculate picks it up, picks the signal.
Yeah.
What does she think she is?
Exactly.
How could you greet her and she doesn't respond? So there's contamination.
Without understanding what even provoked such a situation.
Exactly. So she is bleeding on individuals who did not wound her.
Unprovoked. Okay.
So, like I said, the first step is to always identify the origin of your stress.
Yeah.
Who would open the woman's awareness and let her know that the problem is not at work. The origin of the problem is not at work, but she has brought it to work, and she is infesting the community at work.
And how should she handle such a situation?
First of all, by identifying the origin of your unexpressed emotion. Call them stress. You were stressed at home as a result of the fact that your husband gave you 10,000 francs instead of 15,000 francs. Now, you multiply that thought in your head. Why would he give me 10,000 francs? This is how this man is. He always does this. How does he expect me to, So that's already building up a thought.
Yeah.
And remember, how you think affects how you feel. How you feel affects your mood. Your mood affects your action. So the action of not greeting her colleagues, the action of being aggressive towards her colleagues was originated from the fact that she built thoughts at home when her husband gave her 10,000 francs instead of 15,000 francs. So the very first thing to do is to identify the origin of the unexpressed emotion. Second thing to do, once you identify it, you need to put a name to it. You need to tag it. Is it anger? Is it frustration? Is it jealousy? Is it worry? Is it low self-esteem?
Yeah.
That way, you know what you are dealing with to begin with. And there are other ways to go about it. And like I said, cortisol and adrenaline staying longer in your bloodstream, that surmounts to stress. How do you fix this? There are two ways to fix it. Medically, I had a conversation with a pharmacist, and then she said she could give me some drugs which contains natural elements like potassium, calcium. It's been noted for reducing cortisol levels in blood. And then I said, but I know of other natural ways through which I can bring down my cortisol and adrenaline level. And then she said, oh, I'm very interested. And it would surprise you that something as simple as rhythmic breathing can suppress stress hormones in every human being.
For those who would like to participate on today's edition of the program, you're at the contact 670-5470-49. I repeat, 670-5470-49 or 656-622222. 656-622222. Back to you, Bale. I would want to know, is there a connection between self-care and productivity?
Obviously, from the equation I gave, how you think, what you think about affects how you feel. How you feel affects how you act. And of course, how you act depends or would very much affect productivity. If I feel like I'm not worthy, low self-esteem, I mean, just for a day in a newsroom, let's take, for example, in a newsroom.
Yes.
I come to work in the morning, I feel beaten at night. I mean, I'm worried. I don't know the exact what is wrong with me. I can't
We have
tell.
a call on the line. We'll be coming back to you. Hello. Good afternoon.
Good morning, Mr. Semaku.
Good morning, sir. Your name, where you're calling from, and your question. We can't get you clearly.
My name is Ose Lumumba from Yaoundé.
Okay. Go ahead.
We have different stages of stress because my parents usually say that we young people, we are too young to be stressing. So I don't know if stress is only for old people or anybody can stress.
Okay. Thank you so much for
Thank you.
participating. Thank you. That was really good question. Straight away.
Very, very quick one.
Exactly.
Even our parents do stress. But now, here's the thing. We cannot compare the lifestyle
Back then
20
and now.
years ago and now.
Of course.
We have so many stress triggers today as there was before. Number one is internet and cell phone. Maybe we'll have to come to that some other time.
Okay.
But your question was about the
Connectivity and self-care. That's the question. That's the last question I asked you. Is there any connection between self-care and productivity?
Definitely. I was saying that you are the editor-in-chief. I come in the newsroom feeling low and down, right? I mean, I don't participate. I don't have a subject to propose for the newsroom. Do you think that you think productivity is low or down or up?
It's
It is
low.
definitely
Low,
down.
of course.
And until I fix that problem, there are people who carry high cortisol levels for months, for years. Now imagine what that does to their nervous system, to their brain, and to their entire body.
Yeah.
So there is obviously, due
A
to time
connection.
constraint,
Yeah, exactly.
there is
Connection
a
between-
connection between stress levels and productivity.
Yeah, from the last caller that we had, he talked about stress. Parents believe that young people don't stress. But then we have a lot of reasons to be stressed at some point.
Yeah, I think he said young people stress more than they did in their time, or if I didn't get him well. But like I said, times have changed.
Exactly.
Right? And you can induce stress hormones just by thoughts alone.
Wow.
Exactly. These are things people are not aware, we're not open to. I don't need to hit you, I don't need to insult you. You just need to think about a past event, okay, which occurred.
I get stressed.
It's automatic. The brain does not know whether it is a live event or it is a thought. Psychologists say those are some of the shortcomings of the human brain. The moment it gets a signal, it does what it has to do. It doesn't know whether this signal is from an external or an internal, or it was self-created. Yeah. So nowadays we find more young people exposed to content which could trigger stress. Back in the days, they weren't that those triggers like cell phones, internet, and so on and so forth. At least they were television, but again, the TV programs were tailored more to entertain and build communities, as opposed to nowadays where we have all sorts of entertainment, good and bad, and we also have many other things that can quickly introduce stress hormones into young people.
Let me just tell you this short story. One day I went to the bank and I was trying to withdraw. I think we have a call on the line. We'll get that caller first. Hello?
Hello, madam. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, sir. Your name, your question, and where you're calling from, also.
I'm calling from Bamenda, please.
Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, my question is in relation, I've heard people talking about stress. About stress.
Go ahead, sir. We're listening.
Yeah. I had an accident and then I had problem with the nerves. So I've been going on with people when I want to talk with them, like for treatment cycle, like when I'm doing this, that's physiotherapy. They always tell me that I should avoid being stressed up.
Okay.
No, I say, no, I don't think much about it again. That's what even make my nerves, that when I have stress like that, the nerves would be as if they have tension and will make me feel the type. And then can lead to hypertension. So, but I tell them that, no, it's almost a year that I had an accident. So I'm still staggering with it, trying to move. So I don't know what advice you can give me in relation to that.
Okay. Thank you so much for participating. You got a question?
Yeah, I got the question. I think there are two sides to this. There's the physiotherapy side of it, and then there has to be the mental side of it. And like I always say, most people try to treat and not heal.
Okay.
Treatment means taking care of the physique. Probably he had an accident, a fractured leg. Okay, let's take care of that fractured leg.
Exactly.
But we do not look at the hormonal imbalance that occurred when he had that accident, which could still be haunting him. So I always advise in such cases, make sure you take physiotherapy and psychotherapy.
Now, to my question I was about to ask, I was at the bank and the woman was kind of so mad at people, at the customers, and a man walked up to her and told her, "Madam, have sex." Is there any connection between sex and stress at some point?
Definitely. Immaculate due to time constraint.
Yes.
But listen up. The absence of sex, of course, this would be subjective depending on the individual.
Oh, of course.
But there's a general tendency that most
Men?
people, women, I said people,
Okay.
men and women who are deprived of sex,
Yes,
they
get stressed.
Yeah, I mean, it also depends on the circumstances under which they were denied sex.
Okay.
And then the next thing, the thoughts keep repeating in their mind, in their head, and before you know it, it is already creating a feeling, and before you know it, you are taking an action which we might regret some other time. But clearly there's a connection, a true connection between not having sex in a partnership or in a marriage and stress.
Thank you so much, Philemon MBALE, a trained broadcast journalist and equally freshman psychologist. Thank you for being on today's edition of the program.
The pleasure is mine.
And I am your host, Immaculate Fogwe. I received technical assistance from Bertrand Bonzini and Jonathan Babula. From us right here in the studio to you over there, have a wonderful day. Bye-bye for now.